Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital.
Now before I begin, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. I just got off the phone with a landowner who was selling their property because they had bought it with the intention of parking their RV on it and living there full time. However, after a few months of living in the RV on the property, they got a call from the county letting them know that they would need to remove the RV because full-time RV living was not allowed. And they had been surprised to hear this because they had assumed they were buying unrestricted land. Now, this is a common concern as well as a common point of error that I see when folks are buying land. And so I thought I would make a video on the top 5 things you should know about unrestricted land. And if your primary concern is how to find unrestricted land, you're in luck because I will be going over this point later in the video. But the very first thing that you should understand is that when a listing says unrestricted land, usually what is meant is that the land is free of any HOA, that is homeowner association, restrictions. But this leads me to my second point, which is that unrestricted land may still actually have restrictions in place. And these restrictions could include deed restrictions, and often these were created at the time that the property was subdivided, even when no formal association was created in order to enforce them. Occasionally, you will also find properties that will have an easement on it, and these easements will impose restrictions on the portion of the land covered. But by far the most common kind of regulation or restriction that you will find on unrestricted land will be county or city zoning and building regulations. The majority of jurisdictions in the United States will have some kind of building regulations in place, and these can impact whether you can build a home on the property, but also the kind of home that may be placed. Especially if you are looking to develop a home that is not a traditional stick-built home, you want to thoroughly review zoning and building codes because many jurisdictions do not allow full-time RV living, tiny homes, alternative construction materials, or even mobile homes. And in certain circumstances, even when zoning and building regulations may allow something like a mobile home, there could be old deed restrictions that prevent this. And this can be very frustrating, particularly when local building and zoning regulations are permissive. So one question that I often hear is whether deed restrictions can be terminated. And the answer is yes. There are 3 main ways that a deed restriction can be terminated. The first is if the beneficiary of the restrictions executes a release in writing. This is the easiest way to do it, but is often not feasible in practical terms, since many deed restrictions will have been executed by a corporation or developer decades ago, and that entity is no longer in existence. If you are in luck, there may be an expiration date listed in the deed restrictions, and if this expiration date has passed, then the deed restriction could be considered terminated. Finally, if no one is enforcing the deed restrictions, if they truly are restrictions that were created decades ago and which no one really seems to care about anymore, you could go to court and ask a judge to remove them. However, this of course will come at a cost. And now we get to our 5th and final point, and most likely the one that you are most interested in, which is how do you find truly unrestricted land? Well, you'll start by looking at listings that say unrestricted or no HOA. Both usually mean the same thing. You'll then want to go through and check for zoning and building regulations. You may be in luck and find that the county has no zoning regulations. Alternatively, you'll want to verify that the zoning regulations in place will allow what you are looking to do on the property. Then call the building department, because even in counties without zoning regulations, there will likely be some kind of building code, and this may have certain restrictions on allowable building materials, and it may also restrict certain kinds of living arrangements, such as tiny homes or full-time RV living. And then you will want to look through public records, or ideally hire a title company to do a title search to check for deed restrictions and easements and also verify that there is no HOA in effect. Another thing you can do is work backwards by first researching counties that do not have zoning and then look for listings in those counties that say no HOA. But at the end of the day, it's important to understand that it's up to you and your due diligence to make sure that there aren't any hidden restrictions or limitations that will prevent you from using the property in the way that you would like. To return to my opening story, our unfortunate potential seller had simply assumed that because the listing had said no restrictions, that they were allowed to do whatever they liked on the property, and they did not give the county building or planning department a call to verify that they could live in an RV on the property. So don't get caught in the same trap. Understand what unrestricted land means in the context of a listing and verify that it is truly unrestricted with your own due diligence. Do you have any stories about trying to buy unrestricted land? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to explore our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.